Good morning. Right, I want to talk about censorship. For the simple reason I put a video up a couple of days ago and it was taken down within half an hour. It's apparently I broke the community guidelines, which fair enough, because the community guidelines saying that they can't publish anything in terms of medical information if it contravenes what the medical establishment have actually deemed health information, particularly anything that's untested substances, blah blah blah. So I understand why they actually took the video down, because what I'm saying wasn't written up in the medical literature. Well, for the simple reason that if it wasn't written up in the medical register, there'd be certain companies going bump and billions of pounds. We're talking about, I don't know how many billions the cancer industry, pharmaceutical industry actually makes each year, but they clearly do. The video got taken down. So I've obviously got to find a way around it. I can speak to people on an individual basis, let them know. It's all anecdotal, obviously. So I can't mention and speak freely with my opinion. Now, just as a word on censorship, let's just get over the road here because we've got a busy road. Come on, dog. Buster. Dog. The dog. Come on. Right, let's get into the park. Okay, let me just say you off. Well then, off you pop. So a word on censorship. So there's a couple of things happening there. So by censoring that information, you have denied people to make a decision on that information themselves. You've denied them the ability to have their own discernment and judge for themselves. You've denied the opportunity to take a piece of information, whether it be good information or bad information, and to go and check it for yourselves. And actually you've denied them the learning opportunity to go and actually research something and check it out. You've denied the person giving the information. You've denied them their free speech and their free expression to be able to say their opinion on the world. And who's to say their opinion is better or worse? Well, there are people to say whether the opinion is better or worse. If we can trash, you should have the freedom to actually express your opinion, and other people should have the freedom to trash it in any way they want. Yeah, try and trash it, which is what we see all the time. We see, I suppose, let's have a look at an example that I can say that this video won't get taken down because they don't want you to hear what I'm saying, because you might check it out for yourself and find out it's true. See, this is it. So I'm gonna move away from even thinking about trying to do Rumble, YouTube. I'll probably move on to one of the other platforms. Obviously, BitChute's kind of banned in the UK. They tried to ban Rumble, but I suppose I could go onto that. And then there's always, emailing it to your friends and that kind of thing. I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll find a way around it. I've seen other YouTubers, like, they say words which are keywords, but they say under the breath so that you can't quite make it out, and that gets past the algorithms. You could do that. But you can see it's actually stopping my free expression and free thought. I can't just freely ramble and freely just let whatever stream of consciousness come into mind and then broadcast it out to you guys and let you guys make your own judgments about it. Which is the way it should be. If I say something wrong and one of you guys that see this say, he's made a mistake there, and then you come back and post a reply in the comments with a link to something that disproves it and all the rest of it, that's how it should work. Yeah, it's a lot of the stuff that I was saying is anecdotal. I suppose what I can say is that the video was about healing the body naturally, which I don't think that would be controversial, and this video get taken down. We'll see. If it gets taken down, this is with me being careful, I'm going to post it on X. And then so people will be able to hear what I've said, and then they'll be able to recognise that YouTube is actively engaged in controlling speech, controlling and policing people's speech, which is backed by their ideology. Yeah. So it's a bit like, I mean, I know I can speak on the trans thing. Um, so, you know, if you go against and say a man is a man and a woman is a woman and there's only two sexes, and, you know, we should protect um, women from transgender, sorry, that's men pretending to be women, going into their sex segregated spaces. You know, that shouldn't be controversial. I should be able to say that. But if YouTube had their way, well, that's hate speech, and that's, you know, and that's causing aggression. So, you know, even in Online Safety Act, you've got, you know, hate speech laws. So this is what, you know, these trannies, they come over and say, oh, you're spreading hate. And I've seen Edge of the Matrix. He goes, he says, what's hateful about what I'm saying? I'm saying, you know, there's no such thing as a transgender child. What's hateful about that? They can never say what's actually hateful, just that they hate it. They disagree with it. So it must be hateful because they disagree with it. So free speech is the bastion. It's literally the pillar of a free society. If you can't openly express your ideas freely, because there's somebody controlling that speech, you're literally subject to their ideology. An example of where not having free speech would have held us back. Let's go back into history and look at Galileo Galilei, who's placed under house arrest for stating an opinion that most people hold to this day. You know, we take it for granted. We take it for granted that the sun is at the centre of the solar system. Okay, yeah, all right, not everyone, but most of us take that for granted. You know, we've seen all the workings out. The Copernican model worked better than the Ptolemaic model, you know, with the Earth at the centre. Obviously, Aristotle kind of backed that up as well. Yeah, but now we take that for granted. You know, we know that that's the case. But the Pope didn't like that. It placed him under house arrest. Why? Because it went against the ideology of the ruling power of the day, which was Christianity. Okay, I'm not going to spend the time, you know, just criticising Christianity. Good parts, bad parts, some terrible parts of the history. I think that human beings, men in particular, not just though, infiltrate whatever is the powers be at the time. They infiltrate those systems in order to gain power because that's what they have a desire for. And any good system can be infiltrated by those bad actors, including popes. So they placed him under house arrest for a view we all take for granted. Now, you know, you should have the freedom of speech to be able to say what those ideas are. You should be able to question. And if you can't question, you can't move on. You can't. So Newtonian mechanics, which reigned for, you know, a couple of hundred years in physics, was replaced by Einstein's theory, a special theory of relativity and general theory of relativity. So those ideas of mechanics were actually questioned, and because they were questioned, they actually found them to be inaccurate at certain scales. And yeah, not exactly 100. You know, it was very, very accurate for most scales, and we can still use it. It still has tremendous predictive power as a model, but it's for certain things it wouldn't work, as I understand it. Things like satellite navigation, sat-nav. Assuming satellites are all real and it's not some big delusion. Yeah, apparently, you know, the further away you are from the Earth, time slows down. Speed. I can't remember. I'm not an expert on Einstein, but it was different. If he hadn't been able to question that, and if we hadn't had a safe place to be able to actually openly question these ideas to check their validity, he'd still be stuck with the same model, and we wouldn't have satellite phones and other technologies that go along with it. So the importance of having free speech cannot be understated. I did a speech at Manchester University a couple of years ago, along with James Harvey for Students Against Tyranny. It was in this, was it? It was just after the lockdown madness, and he was basically complaining because a student had been kicked out for expressing an opinion which was opposite to the gender ideology which appears to be ruling the day. And this lad was basically harassed, bullied, and kicked off campus, and all the rest of it. So again, you'd have to go and check that. There was a whole loads of pieces written about it. You can go and research it extensively yourself. We turned up, so he had his speech about that. I was asked to speak on the topic of free speech. So I brought up, having studied a degree in philosophy, I brought up the story of Socrates, who was put to death by the authorities for speaking up, for questioning the authorities of the day. And they actually put it to the vote. And so the charge was for corrupting the youth. Interesting. So the charge was for corrupting the youth. And he lost by a very narrow vote. It was like out of 500 people voting. It was like, 260, 240 that he was guilty of this trumped up charge. But then when they actually came to vote on the actual sentencing, he was overwhelmingly voted to put him to death by drinking poisoned hemlock. Nice. So, his friend Plato obviously wrote a famous dialogue called the Phaedo, which is all about his basically drinking the poison amongst his friends and talking about the immortality of the soul and things like that. As you're about to die, probably good things to talk about. And then there's another one of his dialogues, which is the Apology, which is about the court case and how he stood up and spoke the truth in court and said that I will live or die by the rulings of Athens, which I thought was very, very brave. It's gone down in history as the father of Western philosophy. It's out of that questioning and that spirit of allowing people to question and giving them the freedom and free speech to ask and answer those questions, whether they, I suppose if you've got an ideology and someone questions that ideology and puts it into doubt, and you've been trying to persuade everyone and develop a whole team behind you, and then that team discovers that it was nonsense, you're going to lose your team. So people that want power are going to do anything they can to silence you, hence the censorship. So if you see censorship, if you see people trying to silence an opinion, whether that opinion is right or wrong, if someone's trying to silence it, they have something to hide. It's the ally of tyrants, always has been. So watch out for the censorship. So yes, so that video I put up was censored, taken down, a warning. So apparently I've not actually got a strike against me. It's just a warning, which I could appeal. I'm not going to appeal it because by their own rules, they're right. I did post something which would constitute, in their eyes, medical misinformation. But it's not misinformation, it's just information. Now I could give you, here's a piece of information, okay? Right, so just a disclaimer to YouTube before you cancel this. Okay, this is sarcasm, okay? Here's the disclaimer. Right, so if I say to you, human beings can fly, go to the edge of that cliff and jump off and just flap your arms and you'll fly. Okay, that's misinformation, isn't it? Well, it's actually information. I've just given you some information. Now, would you go and jump off the cliff because I said so and you saw a video of me saying that humans can fly and you can jump off that? Would you then jump off the cliff and try it out and flap your arms? And what? So they jump off, they splat on the floor, and the family then sue me for giving them bad information. Whose responsibility was it? Is it my responsibility to not tell them to jump off a cliff? Or is it their responsibility to check the information for themselves and its validity? Well, you can't live by that everyone who gives information are they're responsible. You can't do that. Because people will say things all the time that other people, they take it as read, don't check it themselves. That's because they're stupid. That's because they didn't check things out. That's because, now you could say it's because they're too trusting, Well, okay, so we lost a moron, yeah, who didn't check out, who didn't see that, hang on, birds can fly, but I was going to say squirrels then, but there's flying squirrels. I was going to say mammals, cats can't fly. You can kind of look at pattern recognition and look around nature and kind of think, well, there's something wrong with what he said there about human beings can fly by flapping their arms. So you can kind of, or you could even go and check the science. You could go and check the literature on thrust and lift and so on and get a better idea for yourself. Okay, I'm rambling, going off tangent. The main point was about censorship, and it was about that the information that I was giving out there could have saved hundreds of lives. I know it has saved one life. Well, actually, there's more than one life. Because of the information which I'd actually, I'd taken on information, and I could have taken it as misinformation because it wasn't in the Lancet, it wasn't in the literature. I could have taken it that way and then just dismissed what he was saying because it wasn't in medical literature. But I also understand how business works. I also understand incentive, and if there's billions of pounds at stake, I understand that people will, out of self-interest, will publish false information if it benefits them financially. So being aware of that situation, I didn't trust the medical establishment. Why would you? And for those that have seen what happened in the last 5 years with a certain illness, can I say it now? Can I say it? Safe and effective. And all the rest of it. That was what the official line was that was put out. And so, by their definition, given the studies that have come out, that was medical misinformation by their own standards. And yet, if you were to say something about it and even show actual scientific studies, and you actually to show this, you could be shadow banned, you could be censored by the thought police. Now, there's a whole bigger picture to all this, which I'll go into in another time, but it is all connected. They are trying to cajole us under one ideology, and for the discerning amongst you, I'm sure you already know what this is. I'm just going to leave it at there, but there will be more videos coming this way.